Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. Well, Joe Biden announced his re-election campaign today through a YouTube video, which, as far as I know, has never been done before. Most people running for the highest office in the land have given live speeches in front of people, but not Mr. Biden. And the big theme, apparently, let's finish this job, which to me is a very scary thought. Just saying. Most Americans are not better off than they were 2 years ago, and I don't think that's going to change in the next year and a half. Mr. Biden failed to mention inflation in his re-elect video, or the fact that real wages or take-home pay for essentially every month since he's been president, falling real wages are the source of American pessimism in poll after poll, showing the source of unhappiness. And while Mr. Biden didn't mention it in his video, he's going to have to deal with it on a campaign trail. That is, if he ever goes on the campaign trail, live and in person. The economy in his first full year in office, 2022, grew by less than 1%. The inflation rate jumped 6.5% after rising over 9% for a good part of the year. And to this day, it remains the highest inflation rate in 4 decades. We are now mired in stagflation with a risk of recession. That's why polls keep telling us Americans are mighty worried about the future and their kids' future and their grandkids' future. Mr. Biden has waged war on fossil fuels based on a far-left Green New Deal ideology. Does not comport with the science or any actual facts. Lately, he wants to end the internal combustion engine and shift everybody to electric vehicles, but at the same time slash electricity power output by as much as 2/3. Go figure. More electric cars, less electricity, all in the name of radical climate policy. Fiscally, he slapped on more federal spending and regulations than anything we have ever seen. Big government socialism, or as Steve Forbes puts it, modern socialism through the regulatory state. Unelected bureaucrats. As former Senator Phil Gramm put it today in the Wall Street Journal, tilting the scales of cost-benefit analysis to social welfare, racial justice, environmental stewardship, human dignity, equity, but no serious economic analysis. Besides shutting down the car business and the fossil fuel industry, Mr. Biden's regulations have gone after airlines, trucking, railroads, energy, communications, student loans, banks, credit cards, child care, family benefits, paid leave, unions, even recently punishing middle-class home buyers who have good credit in order to reward high-risk home buyers like the ones that brought down the financial system 15 years ago. Go figure. Mr. Biden has gone way beyond the Obama administration, and that's why we face continued below 2% growth instead of the 3.5% that governed the United States for roughly 70 years after World War II. Mr. Biden has spent and borrowed something like $6 trillion in just 2 years. Alongside the regulatory binge, he's proposed a $5 trillion tax hike on the most productive job creators in society. His social policies have attacked parents and schools, left open the southern border to millions of illegals, along with an epidemic of drugs and crime. His foreign policy was a disgrace as he fled Afghanistan, and he has supported an unheard-of politicalization of the legal and justice system. The video accused MAGA Republicans of tax cuts for the rich, denying freedom, denying equity, denying love, burning books. All fabulous stuff, although unsupported. Anyway, listen to yourself. Here's what it was.
MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security that you pay for your entire life while cutting taxes for the very wealthy, dictating what healthcare decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making it more difficult for you to be able to vote.
Banning books and telling people who they can love. Well, he has not lifted a finger to help blue-collar workers or traditional families. He has supported the most extreme gender and sex education anybody has ever seen. There's virtually no merit in Mr. Biden's socialist economic system. No merit whatsoever. It's always about diversity, equity, inclusion, along with his big government socialist economics. Whether in person or on video, it's not going to work, Mr. Biden. So I'll just end by saying, save America, retire Joe Biden. That's my riff. All right, let's talk some about this. We're going to spend a good part of the show on different aspects. Joining me right at the top, Steve Forbes, Forbes Media Chairman, Editor-in-Chief, and author of the great book Inflation, and the great Brian Kilmeade, co-host of Fox and Friends, host of One Nation, and the Brian Kilmeade Radio Show, and author of the very good book, The President and the Freedom Fighter. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Brian Kilmeade, just going to go to you. Tonally, this was a very odd speech. First of all, doing it on a YouTube video is very strange. But second of all, not mentioning any of his sort of would-be accomplishments if I were he, and dwelling on attack things that he used in the campaign, in the midterm campaign. So I didn't really understand this. Again, just the tone of the thing didn't make sense to me.
Well, the Democratic Party, sadly, have been living off January 6th for a while, and in case you thought they were going to turn the page, don't watch the video. It's the first thing you see. Number two, as you see, they talked about looking back at how bad MAGA Republicans are, the administration you work for, rather than tell you what's ahead and changing the music to something optimistic. Do we have a rolling hill? Do you have some NFL inspirational music? You can, with the right editor and director, make an 8-year-old child look like Michael Jordan or Norman Vincent Peale of inspiration and optimism. But they chose not to.
Can I say that's a wonderful point? There was no optimism in that speech. That's a wonderful point. And secondly, no achievement, no future agenda. So I should have put it in my riff. Where people just want optimism, Steve Forbes. You know, they want an economic agenda that's optimistic. They want an education agenda that's optimistic. They want a security agenda that's. I think Brian is dead on right. That's going to plague him because people are so pessimistic today, according to the polls.
Yes, he's been in 4 years, and what has he delivered? More misery, foreign policy disasters, people have no faith in the future. This puts a burden on the Republicans, a positive burden if they'll just pick it up. And that is doing what Ronald Reagan did in the early 1980s. Tax cuts, deregulation, a strong defense in the name of freedom, unleashing the American people. John Kennedy did it in the early 1960s. And that's what the people are looking for. They want a future. There's a lot of energy in this country, ready to go. Entrepreneurs ready to roll. Big things happening, positive in healthcare, vaccines for cancer and the like. And people want this. They don't want this Meyer thing in the past, drolling music. Oh, blah, 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 blah. They want something positive. They want
Where's
energy.
John Facenda? The NFL. Vince Lombardi. Get me going.
You're right. You're right about the optimism thing.
Right.
That gives the Republicans, if they can produce a future agenda, as Steve has suggested, that gives them a terrific opening, I think, in this whole election. Putting aside their own differences of opinion. What is Biden selling us? What is he telling us in this video? That's what I don't get. He's telling us everything has gone wrong.
Well, to the 10th power, remember when President Obama, when his, by the way, President Obama, great speaker, great linguist, very good writer, very bright.
Bad politics.
Right, bad politics, great presence. Bill Clinton, great presence. Personability, George W. Bush, off the charts. You could show it, roll up the sleeve, go meet with people. That's how you sell him. With President Biden, you know what he's saying? I'm not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not electable. He will destroy the country. I am the only one that can stop it. And for no other Democrat to step up and say, I can stop him too, and I'm 30 years younger, and I can keep the pace and answer your questions and have a press conference and sit down with your toughest journalists, and you'll be happier. I am shocked that no Democrat says I could be better than 80-year-old Joe Biden.
Right.
They're having trouble up the stairs, trouble pulling off a fun trip to Ireland, refusing to do interviews. Where's the personal pride? And by the way, when you run for office, in theory, you do it for the country. It's service. Where's someone who says, my service to my country is to save us from a president that clearly has, this is more than he can do. And I went up Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, same age. Bernie Sanders probably has the base to do it. He destroyed the country, but he destroyed it. But he destroyed it to do it. He is doing what Barack Obama did. Barack Obama made Mitt Romney unelectable because he said he's the worst. He's a horrible person.
So what are you saying about? What are you
He's
saying
trying to make
about
Trump
Joe Biden?
unelectable. That makes him electable.
Is he succeeding?
Well,
What do you
we
think?
don't know
Is he
yet.
succeeding?
The answer is no, because we don't know who officially is going to be the Republican nominee. And again, this guy's had 4 years. And the reason why he goes into the kind of stuff he does is very simple. They don't want you to realize what their real agenda is. Socialism, control.
That's right. That's right.
Making you buy stuff you want.
He's right. I mean, telling people who have saved and have a good FICO score that they're going to be penalized with respect to
And taking away the air conditioning.
taking away
the
the
dishwasher.
shower heads.
I don't want to help Steve Forbes get a mortgage. All right, I have a great credit rating. Steve, we obviously know he doesn't, and I do not want to have to pay the price for that.
I mean, look, Republicans, what they need to do is just what you said earlier. Art Laffer's been saying this for months and months. They need a future economic growth agenda. And they have one. They have one. That's the point. I don't care whether it's Trump or whether it's DeSantis. You can argue about electability until you're blue in the face.
Right.
But Joe Biden is not offering the American public what they want, which is prosperity, which is take-home pay going up, living standards. Living standards have gone down for 2 years plus under Biden. Well, hey, all the GOP has to do is say here, less spending, less regulating, less taxing, less money printing.
And all for a higher purpose, Ronald Reagan said. Bringing out the genius of the American people. It makes this nation unique. And that way they set the agenda. So when the criticisms come, as they did against Ronald Reagan and other great presidents, they wash away because people say, oh, that's criticism. This guy's painting a good future picture. I want it. This is what America's all about.
Book burning, Ryan, tell me. Book burning? Was that the big issue in this campaign?
Well, they said book banning. Yeah, what they're trying to say is for sixth graders, they probably shouldn't have human sexuality books when they have different books for different appropriate ages. We had that kid, 11 years old, read what was in his library in elementary school, and it was something that should have been in a Penthouse magazine. If you say banning books, guilty is charged. Appropriate books with appropriate age is not a problem. Can I amend something you said?
Yes.
Before prosperity,
Yes.
opportunity for prosperity,
Yes.
no guaranteed
Yes.
outcomes.
Yes.
Set up a
Wait minute.
situation.
No.
Set up a situation where you
Equal.
can have success.
Ryan, we are all equal at the starting line and the finish line in Biden world. We're all equal. There's no merit. It's all affirmative action.
And it crushes.
I'm kidding you here.
Yeah.
I'm playing
No,
the
I get
game.
the sarcasm.
But I'm saying that's what he does it with a straight face. Diversity, equity, inclusion in everything. In everything.
And crushing the American spirit. If you have a knack for baseball, why shouldn't you be allowed to develop those talents? Everyone has something they're unique at, something they can do better than other things. Why can't you have the opportunity to realize that? And if you fail, you get back on your feet again in this country. Failure is not a stigma as it is in other societies. All the same means tyranny.
Right.
People don't want EVs. By golly, we're going to destroy the internal combustion engine. You're going to have EVs anyway.
Who voted on that?
That's tyranny.
There's nobody. Wait, who telling us who to love? What does that mean?
I don't even know what he's
Who to love?
referring to.
I have no idea what he's
I mean, I
talking
assume it's some allusion to transgenderism, which has nothing to do with anything. No person that I know, independent, undecided, or Republican, is in anyone's bedroom. There was a time when same-sex marriage and marriage between a man and a woman was something that Joe Biden was saying on Meet the Press to Tim Russert. He doesn't say that anymore. This is a non-issue. That's why I think what the RNC chair, Ron McDaniel, put out was so important, is that she put out an immediate fact checker. There's like 6 or 7 things in there, totally unnecessary and inaccurate. Also, they say the tax cuts that you helped put together are for the rich. That's lazy. That doesn't have anything to do with
For
it.
the umpteenth time,
It's amazing.
statistics show that the biggest winners were the middle and lower middle income people.
And that's what
With
President Trump
poverty
said. We don't need
going
a tax
down.
cut for the rich, but there's 1% off the top bracket. It was for corporate rates to be more competitive. We've been over that.
So Biden's just, there he goes again, all right, he's been lying again. I mean, what kind of
The bigger story, I
what
think,
kind
is
of
why the time
opening is this?
but
What kind of video? Look, it's not even a speech, for God's sake. There's no vision.
He never said re-elect.
And that's why.
By the way, that's a good point.
He just said, I thought he finished the job. Okay, he got 2 more years. You got it. Same inauguration.
I love that.
Yeah.
By the way, Kamala Harris was prominently featured in this.
But not saying anything.
Well, no.
He
But I'm
didn't
just,
take a
I
risk.
thought he was going to leave her in the basement. Not a chance. But
No, well, that's why they're both going to be in the basement. He's not going to be the Democratic nominee. Capacity, what they were finding about his family and the money, that's going to be out there.
He never mentioned
Allow-
family corruption, did he? I didn't hear that part.
and lousy economy.
He's got some LLC problems, apparently. We're going to talk about that later.
People know the country's not going in the right direction. And so all he can do is try to come up with a boogeyman to scare people. And that's not going to work. Carter tried it against Reagan in 1980. Reagan had the vision. Carter didn't. Guess what happened?
I don't know.
44 out of 50 states.
Sound who to love. Brian, I love you.
Right, that's and no one told you to say that.
Straight up. No one
Right, and you do have an IFB, but that came from your heart.
Off the top, it did come from my
It
heart.
came from your heart, I tell you.
No one said that. Now, Akila doesn't like any of us. She wants us out of here.
Yeah, she raps you about 2 minutes ago.
Steve Forbes.
Good to have your name on the title.
Ryan
Your name on the show, you can do whatever you
No
want.
respect.
It's freedom.
I get freedom. No respect at all. By the way, you can catch Brian on One Nation Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox News.
And tonight,
I was going to say, why aren't we, you're promoting, you're stepping in 8 o'clock every night this week, is that right?
unless you heard something else.
That's an act of heroism. No comment on that part.
Okay.
We appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Coming up, Joe Biden should retire and take Kamala with him. We're going to talk much more about these things with Mark Simone and DeRoy Murdoch. Stick right here with Kudlow. You're right. There was no optimism.
Right.
That's what was missing. Why did I get that?
See all the savings at MayorChevy.com on new roads.
All right, so Joe Biden announces his reelect campaign. Does it via YouTube. But Democrats aren't endorsing him. Actually, Donald Trump right now has more endorsements for president than Joe Biden does. Anyway, here's some sound on the Biden hedges.
The country will be well served by a new generation of compelling, well-prepared, dynamic Democrats to step up.
Are you encouraging him to run again?
I'm encouraging him to focus on what's right in front of us.
I've been very clear. I'd like to see a generational change. Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, the president, everybody.
Right.
We need a new generation of leadership.
Are you going to endorse Joe Biden if he runs for re-election?
Oh, there's plenty of time for the election. This is the problem with America right now. We start an election every time there's a cycle. Let's see who's involved. Let's wait until we see who all the players are. Let's just wait until it all comes out.
All right, talk about all this and more. Joining us, Mark Simone, WOR radio host, and DeRoy Murdoch, senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research and Fox News contributor. Mark Simone, did anyone today endorse? Somebody said that Governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, who's a friend of mine, I will say, or an acquaintance of mine. Did anyone endorse Biden today after this video?
I don't think he'd win the election in his own house. I don't think. No, I mean, how's this guy going to campaign? By stretcher? I mean, how's he gonna... The video starts with this horror show music, this gloomy music. And he just lies. The last time around he lied, I'll be a uniter, I'll be a healer. As soon as he's elected, everybody's a racist, everybody's a MAGA extremist. This one was on personal freedom. He'll tell you what light bulb you can use, what kind of oven you can have, where you can set your thermostat, what way you can drive. This is not personal freedom.
No, it's not personal. By the way, even if you have a good FICO score, he comes after you.
Yeah.
Do you have a down payment on your mortgage? He doesn't even like that. DeRoy, what did you hear in this?
Well, I think it's just amazing that he decided to announce via YouTube. I mean, couldn't he have just gone to the East Room of the White House and brought his staff in so they could cheer? Or call Randy Weingarten and say, get 200 of your teacher friends, we'll come over to the Hilton and announce it there. Get some sense, at least the perception that somebody's behind him other than just one person by camera.
It's a very sterile thing that he did today, besides the horror show music and the lack of optimism that Brian Kilmeade talked about, which is an important point. This was a very sterile thing. It had no oomph to it whatsoever. You're right. It's like nobody was cheering him. It's just a bunch of old pictures.
Yeah, it's like flipping through a photo album rather than having people there saying, "Run, Joe, run."
Somebody can run against this
He's
guy.
practically a mummy. You're not going to get any life out of this.
That's the horror movie, The Mummy.
The Mummy and
The Democrats have all become doom and gloom. It's not enough that they're miserable. They're going to make you miserable too. They want everybody unhappy, everybody suffering. It's just awful.
Misery loves country.
Why is it? How can Trump have more endorsements than Biden? Biden's the sitting president. Where are people? I mean, I know Biden's got himself an LLC problem because LLCs are for Biden. But I'm surprised that professional politicians, on make, that's what they do for a living, rent seeking particularly. Nobody's backing this guy. I assume he'll be his party's nominee. Now, he may not be his party's nominee, and there's stuff out there that we don't know about. I mean, maybe you want to comment on that. But it's stunned that they can't rally people. Like today, they should have had 50 or 100 people come out for him.
Yeah, like
they should have been standing in front of him with his speech.
I'm sure the members of the U.S. House, members of the U.S. Senate who back him, who would show up if asked to do so and say, there's Maxine Waters cheering for Joe Biden. Nancy Pelosi loves him. That's somebody
So
else.
is this a gigantic mistake, this YouTube thing?
Yeah, I don't think it adds very much. It doesn't give you the sense there's a big bandwagon behind Biden. It's just, Biden and one guy with camera, or gal with camera, maybe.
Kamala Harris figured prominently in this. Lots of pictures of Kamala Harris, and they ended together. I find that interesting because everyone knows Biden's got an age and a health problem, okay? So she is the president if he's not capable. They didn't hire her. They put her right out there, and I don't know if anybody likes her.
I don't know. I mean, she looks nice. Here's some pictures. You want me to talk? No, we don't need you to talk. You could have given her a few seconds to say something to do. By the way, that video has 50, 60 edits in it. He was unable to even complete sentences. And I noticed there's a lot of padding with music and pictures. Even the RFK Jr. video was dazzling. He spoke for 2 minutes eloquently.
So this was a big mistake by his campaign managers.
It's awful, but I'm sure they realized he couldn't do a live event. He would just be one gaffe after another.
Boy, that's something. DeRoy, I say it in jest, but I say it seriously. Donald Trump has far more endorsements than anybody, and so forth and so on. But senators and House members endorsing Trump all over the place. What does that tell you?
Yeah, what's also most interesting about that is U.S. House members from Florida. People like Byron Donalds, people like Michael Waltz have come out, and obviously Ron DeSantis is their governor. They've got to deal with this guy, Tallahassee, I imagine. And they said, well, we love him as governor, but we're going to go with Donald J. Trump. So that is interesting that he's been able to get endorsements even on Ron DeSantis' soil.
A Wall Street Journal reporter, he's a Washington reporter. He's not a political reporter. He's an economic reporter. We were standing outside here talking with a couple of producers, myself and this reporter, who just said to me, he said, right now, it's better than 50-50 that Donald Trump will be president.
At least, I think a lot of the lack of endorsements, people don't know what kind of shape Joe Biden will be in a year from now. Susan Rice running for the exit. Very significant. People haven't paid enough attention to that.
We talked about it last night. Jason Chaffetz thought she'd run for president. What do you think of that?
Which country? Not this one.
This country. Beginning in South Carolina, he said.
It could be, but I think she just wanted to get the heck out of there.
She's calling the shots, is that right? Is she the puppeteer?
No, I totally reject this puppeteer concept. It's Joe Biden's government. He's not intubated on a stretcher, as you mentioned stretcher earlier. He is able to get up and give speeches, not great ones, but he's sufficiently compass mentis. At any point, Joe Biden can say, folks, we spent too much money. Too much regulation. We got to dial this back. And he does. He just keeps
At the end of the day, the way it works is the president has to sign off on no policy.
He's not the
you're
victim.
quite right.
He's
You're
the
quite
villain
right.
of this horror movie.
Mark Simone, DeRoy Murdoch. He's the villain of this horror movie.
He's the villain of this horror movie.
Well, DeRoy, well done. All right. Coming up, folks, the Bidens have an LLC problem. It's an LLC with money coming in from China, from Ukraine, from God knows where. A lot of it. Too many LLCs. And it's going into the Oval Office. We're going to talk about it with Jim Jordan, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. Plus, what is Joe Biden's constant attack on merit all about? Joe Biden does not understand merit. Everything's about equality, not equality of opportunity, but equality of results at the finish line. And that is un-American. Victor Davis Hanson will weigh in all when Kudlow returns.
What a circle.
That's so.
Fox Business invested in you.
Yeah, I gotta say, political dirty tricks and a lot of LLCs. I didn't hear Mr. Biden say anything about that on his lugubrious YouTube today. But here to talk about everything in the world, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, who is the distinguished chair of the House Judiciary Committee. Jim Jordan, you outed Anthony Blinken and what I call the Gang of 51, these phony intel guys that covered up for the Hunter Biden laptop so Joe Biden could lie his way through the debates. the second debate rather, and then the rest of the campaign. So you did everybody a service. Now, I've said, political dirty tricks like that, what is this guy Blinken doing running the State Department, okay? It's just a political hackery.
Well, he hasn't done a very good job. I mean, look at the Afghanistan withdrawal. Look at what's happening in Sudan. We got Americans there, and on it goes. But to that specific issue, I mean, it started with Blinken reaching out to Mike Morrell. That prompted Morrell to put this whole thing together. And Mike Morrell told us in the deposition, Larry, he said, we did it because we wanted Biden to have something to use against Trump in the debate, because we knew Trump would bring up the Biden laptop story. We wanted Biden to win. And of course, when it happens, Joe Biden brings the letter up during the debate as if it was organic. When it wasn't, it was put together with, and the campaign even told Morrell, here are the reporters we want you to first give the letter to. And then when it's all done, after the debate on October 22nd, just 2 weeks before the election, when it's all over, the campaign chair, Steve Rossetti of the Biden campaign, calls up Mike Morrell and thanks him for the whole deal. That's how political this whole thing is.
I know, and I think you did everyone a service, by unveiling that, making that transparent. Because, Blinken's name hadn't been in there, and the whole connection that you mentioned, Blinken to Morrell, etc., with Rossetti and all the rest of it, there's just political dirty tricks, and those are the kinds of political hacks that normally don't get jobs at the top of the most important, for example, the State Department is in some sense the senior most cabinet department in the government. The other thing, Jim Jordan, look, so you have now Merrick Garland slow-walking everything with respect to the Hunter Biden grand juries in Delaware. Now, this hasn't yet been totally proven, but you've got this IRS whistleblower. Yeah. This is more, James Comer's thing than yours, but nonetheless, you guys are working together on this. To me, this is also political skullduggery or political dirty tricks. What is an attorney general, which is a gigantic job in the government, the head of, American law enforcement, what is he doing participating in some kind of cover-up of the Hunter Biden story and all these LLCs that keep somehow cropping up?
Well, the short answer is I don't know. Yeah. What I do know is they've had the laptop since December of 2019, so they've had the laptop for a while. They had it before the 2020 election, and yet let everyone think this is where it ties in with that correspondence from the 51 former Intel officials. But I think in the big picture since, Larry, 170 plus suspicious activity reports, thousands of pages involved in those suspicious activity reports, dozens of LLCs, now up to a dozen Biden family members receiving money, according to Chairman Comer, and they get it from all kinds of foreign governments and foreign entities. That just doesn't fit right. That just doesn't smell right. There's something wrong there. And then so you put all that package together and you ask sort of the fundamental question. What service were they providing to get the funds? What did they do? What value did they add? What was their job to get this money? And you can't find an answer to that fundamental question. So, and then you couple all that with what seems to be the slow process with the U.S. attorney. I don't know, but I'm convinced that Mr. Comer and the Oversight Committee are in fact going to get to the bottom of it.
Well, they probably will. He's a pretty impressive guy, Jim Comer. He's been on the show a couple of times. I didn't really know him, but I agree with you. I think he's going to get to the bottom. But Jim Jordan, with all these LS, this is about influence peddling, right? This is all about influence peddling. And this is going to reach into the Oval Office. I mean, is it credible to assume that all the money collected by these LLCs, not a dime got into Joe Biden? I find that hard to believe. I do. I just find that hard to believe. It's not proven. It's not proven, but I don't know. I got my own opinion.
Again, we don't know, but it sure looks funny. It sure looks suspicious. I tell people they don't call them suspicious activity reports for, they do that for a reason, because there's suspicious banking activity happening there. Yeah. So, I think people are concerned, and rightfully so.
Can I ask you another thing? Speaking of suspicious activity, so you all are putting together what I think is a very good package. The debt ceiling and relevant budget cuts and HR 1 and work there and so forth. I totally support it. I think it's great stuff. So you haven't even passed it on the floor of the House, okay? I reckon you will, but you haven't yet. Today, the Biden administration, OMB, put out a circular saying that the president would veto it if it became law. So let me get this straight. He's not returning McCarthy's calls. There's no second date. There's no, Diet Coke or drive-in movie. And now he's putting out a veto message for something that actually doesn't even exist yet, although it will. I mean, what do you make about this?
No, it's the kid on the playground who says, I'm going to take my football and go home. I mean, think about it. Under Joe Biden, record spending, record inflation, record debt. And what does he say to the speaker? Oh, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to negotiate with you. Just give me more money so I can keep on spending. That's not how it works. And it works, and the American people understand that. This is the most ridiculous position I've ever seen. The package that we're putting together in the House is a good package, which says we're going to get some savings now. We're going to slow the growth of the rate of spending in the future. We're going to put in policies that will grow our economy like you did in the Trump administration. We're going to do all those things, and Joe Biden says, no, I'm going to take my football and go home. I want my way. Just give me more money. Nobody understands that. Everyone sees that as like, this is crazy, but it's sort of consistent with this administration, because tell me one thing they've done right. I can't find one. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised at the position they're taking now.
I got to go, but 30 seconds. Tell me $1. Tell me $1.25 of a spending cut any place in the budget that Biden would sign on to. Show me $1.23. Okay, give me $1.10. I mean, really, nothing. They will not cut. They've spent $6 trillion. They wouldn't cut anything. I mean, I think that's what the word is chutzpah, well, however you say it. I mean, that's really something.
No, it's ridiculous
Nothing.
again.
Not a buck.
Record spending, record inflation, record debt, and what do they say? Give me more money. That just isn't going to fly. And Americans have common sense, and they understand that's not going to fly. And that's why our package, I think, is going to pass this week.
All right, Chairman Jim Jordan, the best of the best. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time, as always.
You bet. Thanks, sir.
All right, now swinging back here, joining us now, Victor Davis Hanson, senior fellow at the Hoover Institute, author of The Dying Citizen, How Progressive Elites, Tribalism, and Globalization Are Destroying the Idea of America. Victor, welcome to the show. It's my great oversight for some. You haven't been on a show, and I apologize for that. So it's good to see you. I was reading this thing you wrote. Do we even know we are all socialists now? There's something that Kevin Hassett mentioned on the show. I think it was yesterday, Victor. There's no merit left in Biden world. There's no merit left in his socialism. It's all about, equality at the starting line, equality at the finish line. There's no college board. There's no grades. There's no law school curriculum, as you're writing in this. There's no merit left in America. And, I scratch my head and say, how did it come to this?
Yeah, well, it's a second wave. I mean, when we had Great Society programs and redistribution, there was pressure from the bottom up. People wanted more Medicaid, or students wanted more student loans, or people wanted more food stamps. But this, Larry, is more comprehensive and systematic. It's top down. The people who want to change the regulations with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, these are high-level bureaucrats that want to punish people who have good credit ratings and reward those that don't. Here in California, the people who want to add money to your costs, I should say, to your power bill, are the bureaucrats high up in PG&E and Southern California Edison who want to appease the legislature. So this is more comprehensive. It's more Jacobin. It's the transformation of the entire society rather than one group saying, well, I'll play by the rules, but give me some stuff. There are no more rules. We're going to punish the people who succeed and reward those who fail. It's also predicated on another, I think, an important qualification. When I say top down, these people all believe they're not subject to the consequences of their own ideology. They're pretty affluent people, and they feel they've done pretty well, and they can afford to change the rules a little bit once they've made it into the attic and pull up the ladder behind them, because they don't think they're going to be hurt by any of these changes. And I think that's the story of socialism, whether it's the Castro brothers or Chavez or the Noriegas or the Jacobins or the Bolsheviks. They're pretty much upper middle class people who feel that they're going to, experiment on the masses, but they're going to be exempt. And I think the Bidens are no exception. So Joe Biden can talk about the unfairness of the tax system, pay your fair share, but we know that he's got some tax problems himself, and that's pretty typical.
The nomenclatura get rich. They're the only ones. Everybody else is in poverty. And the nomenclatura can be as corrupt as they want, Victor, right? Because they don't have to abide by the laws. They can change the laws or politicize the laws. So that's really the story. I mean, one of the insights you've made, this is cultural stuff, it's political stuff, but it's part and parcel of socialism. It's part and parcel of socialism.
It is. It is. I think also there's a psychological element. I think it's almost like medieval penance, or, that people who are very wealthy kind of have a guilt about how well they've done, and so they virtue signal and they come up with these ideas that make them feel good, but at somebody else's expense. Sort of like the medieval church where if you wanted to be a moneylender or a sinner, you subsidize a block on the dome of St. Peter's Cathedral, and then you got into heaven. So I think that a lot of these people on the bi-coastal elite, they go for this radical, almost BLM, Antifa extreme, with the expectation that they're not going to, if they have to pay more or tax, it won't hurt them. But they feel so good about it that they're not greedy or they're not selfish because they pass this redistribution and this radical transformation of American society at somebody else's expense. The final thing is they think there's a lot of ruin in the United States because they assume that they can keep doing this, and the work of prior generations was so efficient and so dynamic that there's still going to be a lot of money that they can go through before the whole system collapses.
Yeah, right. What is it? The geese that lay the golden eggs, but they think they're old legs. They're going to lay those golden eggs automatically, or something like that. Anyway, Victor Davis Hanson, thank you, and we hope to have you back very soon.
Thank you.
All right, you bet. All right, folks, coming up, Joe Biden's waging war on oil wells, on cars, on hard hats. I mean, that's it. We'll talk about it with Congressman Ryan Zinke, who is also a former Interior Secretary. And remember, folks, Cut Low now available as a podcast. Episodes available every weekday right after our show. Spotify, Apple, FoxBusinessPodcast.com. I'm into Spotify if I can figure out what it is.
Get your own WaxRx system now at Walmart, Walgreens, and other fine retailers.
Yeah, so Joe Biden's policies destroyed our energy independence, but he kind of forgot to mention that in his YouTube video. Joining us now is Montana Congressman Ryan Zinke, former Interior Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Zinke. Look, I mean, of all the crazy things, just the last week or two, The EPA is going hog wild. So they're going. Let me get this right. They're going to end gas-powered cars, internal combustion engine. We're going to go to all electric vehicles in the next dozen years or 10 years. But we're going to stop all the fossil fuel generated electricity, which is 65% of the electricity. So let me get this right. You're smarter than I am. You have to help. We're going to have electric cars, but we're cutting back major in electricity? I don't understand this. How can this be?
Well, the insanity continues in the Biden administration. And here's the irony. Just when we become energy independent, in some cases energy dominant under the Trump administration, this administration turns and retreats from it, and we're becoming more energy dependent on China for the components of the EV. And whether it's the materials necessary for batteries, lithium, cadmium, cobalt, or the components that go into the systems itself with chips and the components of the EV world, all that's coming from China. So the moment we become independent and no longer vulnerable from foreign entities for our energy needs, this administration returns and runs back, so now we'll be dependent on China, which could be one of our adversaries. It's insanity.
Ryan, another irony is, look, we have the minerals. We have them, but the Interior Department will not provide permits for mining them. I mean, that's a little strange too, isn't it?
Well, there's not only permits for mining. In the case of Minnesota, the largest nickel mine, on face of the planet, put a moratorium on it, and those are critical minerals for batteries, as you say. The statistic I have, it would take a 2,000% increase in mining for 20 years just to catch up on the demand today. But it's not just mining, it's the infrastructure to move fuels, it's natural gas, it's liquefaction of natural gas, so we can once again export and provide not only ourselves, but foreign countries with our energy. And Larry, we do it cleaner, better, more efficiently than anybody. So another irony is, if you want to be environmentally conscious, then make America your energy producer. If you want to see it produced overseas with no regulation, then watch what's happening in the world.
See, that's why I think, in terms of Biden's re-election, he's going to lose on both sides. On both sides, you just described it perfectly well. The Greenies won't like it, but the fossil fuel people won't like it. Nobody's going to like this policy.
Well, yeah, and you look at China. All right, China is the world's largest emitter of pollution. 90% of the ocean's plastic, Larry, comes from 4 rivers in China. Right. So to be dependent on China, which is not a green machine, by the way, they're the biggest polluter. And a message for those companies that produce in China: come on home. Let's get the Patagonians, all these companies that purport to be environmentally sensitive and environmentally conscious. Come on home, manufacture in the U.S., where regulation, I think, is appropriate.
And it weakens us so much in international affairs. That's the other problem. Ryan Zinke, Congressman now, former Interior Secretary. Thank you, my friend. Talk soon. Folks,
great to be with you, Larry.
Thank you. I'll be right back with my last word.
Well, the stock is bubbling in the pot.